The first bribe had to be done from his own pocket, but he had completed 2 cycles now. The third shipment, which should go out tomorrow, would start to show him a profit. The 3 men worked quickly, inserting the stones into plastic replicas of American candies, then sealing the seams, making sure they marked the boxes the fake candies were put into. They were joined by 2 more cousins. One of them had always been slow. Tet had to oversee his work at first, but he seemed to know what to do now. Tet would prefer not to employ that cousin, but he knew he had to work with him. That's what families did. A few hours later, the entire batch of plastic was finished and loaded onto a truck to be eventually transported to an aquarium shop in Dallas, which served as Tet's front for the backroom smuggling operation. The plan was for the shipment to fly over the Pacific as usual, a shipment of innocent-looking, new, eco-friendly, compostable plastic. It would be trucked from the airplane to a warehouse in West Texas, then brought to Dallas. It wasn't until the next morning that Tet consulted his notes and realized, with a sickening jolt, his cousin had inserted the jade into the wrong batch of plastic. This batch wasn't bound for his aquarium shop in Dallas, but after going to the warehouse outside a small Texas town called Fredericksburg, it would be trucked to an address very close by, a place called Bella's Baskets. The shipment without the jade was going to his shop in Dallas. This was very, very wrong. He had to make sure the jade-filled plastic didn't get to Bella's Baskets. Tantor got to Texas as quickly as he could. He flew to San Antonio, then things got a bit more complicated. He usually flew to Dallas and didn't know this part of Texas. He asked a few people how best to get to his destination and decided to get a private plane to the tiny airport outside the small town that served the county. From there, he rented a car and drove to the warehouse that he hoped still held the precious cargo his stupid cousin had mislabeled. He knew his uncle, Yu Win, would blame Tet for the error, since he was in charge of the smuggling. Yu Win pretended to everyone that he didn't know what his nephews were doing, though he was behind the scheme. He had Tet carry out the operation, so it looked like he was in charge. When Tet got to the warehouse, he didn't want to make inquiries that people would remember, but he had to find out where his shipment was. He had thought of an approach on his long flight over the Pacific. He needed to call his associate in Dallas as soon as he landed. The associate, Arlen Sneed, said he could meet him in the town of Fredericksburg, but Tet would have to intercept the load before Arlen arrived. Tet parked his rental car at the edge of the large lot and walked toward the prefab metal building. One truck was in the process of backing up to the loading dock. He strode to the driver's side and waited for the man to alight from the cab. "Can you help me?" he asked. His accent was slight from having done business in Dallas for several years and also from having a good ear for languages. The trucker stopped and said, "Howdy, what do you need?" He had dark skin and black curly hair. He wore a cotton company shirt with the Planet Earth logo and the name Mateo on the pocket. "I need to hire a truck driver for a single job," Tet said. "A small one. Do you know of anyone who would want to pick up an extra job?" "Where to? What's it for?" "I can't say too much." Tet looked down at his shoes. "It would be unofficial, off the books, cash-based." He knew from working with Arlen that these code words would tell the man it wasn't quite legal. He didn't want to hire an honest truck driver. He needed one who was hungry and would jump at any job and keep his mouth shut. The man tilted his head back and looked hard at Tantor, squinting to indicate he knew what they were talking about. "I might know someone," he said. "What would it pay?" "We can decide that after I tell the person what is involved." "Well, I'm your person. Let's talk." 1. Thursday in early June, mid-afternoon. Callie Holt opened her eyes.